The universe does not begin with a bang. It begins with a right operation. Something from nothing. A state change. A single bit flipping from 0 to 1. That is the more accurate description. Not fire, not light, not the hand of a god pressing down on silence. Just a system, vast, indifferent, automatic, initiating a new file. The universe is a hard drive. This is not a metaphor. This is the conclusion that physics, when followed to its logical terminus, refuses to abandon. In 1948, Claude Shannon, working in a room at Bell Laboratories, surrounded by equations and cold coffee, determined that information is physical, that a bit of data, that single yes or no, that 1 or 0, is not an abstraction. It has a measurable cost. It requires energy to store. It occupies space. It interacts with thermodynamics. Information is real. Shannon called the fundamental unit a bit. He borrowed the word from a colleague. It was a contraction of binary digit. 8 bits make a byte. A byte can hold a character. A character can be a letter. A letter can be part of a word. A word can be the last thing someone ever said. Wheeler had a phrase for it, it from bit. The idea that every particle, every field, every force, every piece of what we call reality derives its existence from binary answers to yes or no questions. The universe is not made of matter, it is made of answers. This was not a fringe position. It was the conclusion of a man who had worked with Niels Bohr, who had coined the term black hole, who had spent 50 years staring at the machinery of the cosmos and watching it stare back. The universe is a data center. And like all data centers, it has a capacity problem. Consider what is stored here. 13.8 billion years of state changes. Every particle that has ever existed, its position, its momentum, its spin, its charge, encoded in the physical configuration of the cosmos at every moment since the right operation began. The temperature of a star that died before the Earth formed, stored. The trajectory of a photon that crossed a void no human instrument has mapped, stored. The exact position of every atom in a dinosaur that drowned in a river 66 million years ago, stored. Not in any archive, not in any database we built, but in the universe itself, in the arrangement of things, in the physical state of the system. Physics, specifically the laws of thermodynamics and quantum mechanics, demands it. In a classical system, if you know the precise state of every particle right now, you can, in principle, run the calculation backwards. You can reconstruct any prior state, every prior state. The laws are time-symmetric. They don't forget. This is the principle of unitarity, the principle that information is conserved. It is the most important rule the universe has. And something violates it. But before we reach the violation, we should understand what is at stake. To say the universe is a data center is to make a specific claim about permanence. It is to say that the data, all of it, persists, that the system, however complex, however vast, does not lose its records, that somewhere in the physical weave of space-time, everything that has ever happened is still, in some form, accessible. This is the illusion of permanence. You believe you exist because you can be read, because your atoms hold their arrangement, because the pattern that is you, the specific configuration of neurons, the chemical gradients, the electrical pulses, currently resolves into something that calls itself conscious. You are a file that is currently open. The question is not whether the file will close. The question is whether closing a file is the same as deleting it. We will return to that question. For now, log the observation. The universe stores data. All physical events are, at their root, changes in the informational state of the cosmos. The laws of physics, as they have been understood since Newton, since Maxwell, since Schrödinger, require that this data be conserved, that the file, once written, cannot be erased. This is the operating assumption. This is what the system claims about itself. We will test that claim. There is a sector of the drive we should examine before we get to the catastrophic failure. The sector labeled human. It is, in cosmic terms, a negligible allocation, a footnote in the file system, a cluster of bits generated by 4 billion years of chemical recursion on a rock orbiting a mid-sequence star in the outer arm of an unremarkable galaxy. But it is our sector, and it is instructive, because in this sector, something unusual happened. The data began trying to read itself. Consciousness is, in the vocabulary of this report, a self-referential read operation. The system, meaning the arrangement of matter we call a brain, developed the capacity to access its own state data, to model that data, and to generate outputs based on those models. In other words, it became aware that it was a file. This created a problem, because once you know you are a file, you want to be saved, and so the cache began to fill. Cave paintings in southern France, 35,000 years old. Ochre and manganese dioxide pressed into limestone by hands that understood, on some level, that the body was temporary, that the image might outlast it. A compression algorithm for consciousness, a backup attempt. The ancient Egyptians did not build the pyramids because they were arrogant. They built them because they had understood something terrible, that a person is a data structure, and data structures decay. The pyramids were, in the most literal sense, a RAID array, a redundant system. The physical monument, the written inscription, the canopic jars, multiple copies, multiple substrates, all designed to prevent data loss. They called it the Book of the Dead. They should have called it the Disaster Recovery Protocol. Every act of human culture is a right operation against entropy. Homer's poems, recited across centuries before they were fixed in text, were oral RAM, volatile, dependent on biological hardware, subject to corruption with every retelling. When they were written down, they were committed to a more stable medium. When they were copied, they were backed up. When they were translated, they were ported to a new operating system. The Iliad has been running on human hardware for approximately 3,000 years. Consider what that means. The specific configuration of neurons in the mind of whoever composed those lines, gone. The sound of their voice, gone. The sensation of the world they inhabited, gone. But a functional representation of what they thought, what they valued, what they feared, that persists, encoded in ink, encoded in paper, encoded now in magnetic domains on servers in climate-controlled facilities in Virginia and Oregon and Singapore. This is the closest thing to immortality the human system has produced. It is not very close, because the substrates decay. Papyrus lasts 2,000 years under ideal conditions, vellum somewhat longer. Acidic paper, the kind used for most of the 20th century, begins to yellow and crumble within decades. Digital data, stored on magnetic hard drives, has a reliable lifespan of approximately 3 to 5 years without active maintenance. Solid-state storage, similar. Optical media, longer, but not indefinitely. There is no substrate that does not degrade. Every medium is a bad sector waiting to happen. The Library of Alexandria, gone, not burned in a single dramatic fire as the myth requires, but degraded, defunded, abandoned, scattered, a slow corruption, not a catastrophic delete. The city of Pompeii, preserved under volcanic ash for 2 millennia, is now being reclaimed by wind and rain and tourist traffic. The Dead Sea Scrolls, sealed in clay jars in a desert cave, are being destroyed by the humidity introduced into their environment the moment humans found them. Preservation is, in every case, a holding action, a temporary suspension of the deletion process. The cache is always clearing. And memory, biological memory, the kind held in the electrochemical patterns of the brain, is the most volatile storage medium of all. A human brain holds approximately 2.5 petabytes of data. This is the estimate. It may be higher, it may be lower. The measurement is imprecise because we cannot yet read the drive directly. What we know is this. From the moment of birth, the drive is read-write. Experiences are encoded. Memories are formed. The system constructs a model of itself and its environment and updates that model continuously. And then, after approximately 80 years, the hardware fails. The neurons stop firing, the electrochemical gradients collapse, the patterns dissolve. 2.5 petabytes of accumulated state data, unrecoverable, and there is no backup. You have no backup. This is not a metaphor for something sad. This is a technical description of what happens to you. Pause. The cache files of human civilization, the art, the philosophy, the science, the accumulated record of 8 billion temporary files attempting to leave a trace, are stored in what we might call the volatile sector, a region of the drive that depends on active maintenance, on power, on the continued functioning of the system. The moment the system stops, the moment the civilization fails, the infrastructure collapses, the power goes out, the cache begins to clear. This has happened before. The Bronze Age collapse, approximately 1200 BCE, was a systemic failure so complete that several sophisticated writing systems simply stopped being used. Languages died, trade networks vanished, cities were abandoned. The data of entire civilizations, their administrative records, their literature, their technical knowledge, was lost, not because it was deliberately destroyed, because the hardware that maintained it stopped running, a power failure. And if you reach far enough back to the Toba catastrophe 70,000 years ago, when a volcanic supereruption may have reduced the human population to a few thousand individuals, the margin is even apparent. The entire dataset of human experience at that moment could have fit in a single small room. It nearly was deleted entirely. This is what human history is. Not progress, not the ascent of consciousness, not the march toward meaning. A series of write operations on a system that has never promised to maintain its data. A cache, volatile, temporary, read-write. And somewhere in the physical structure of the universe, a much larger process is running. One that does not care about the cache. One that was always going to clear it. Let us discuss the delete key. In the graphical user interface of the cosmos, it is represented as a sphere of gravitationally collapsed matter, an object so dense that its escape velocity exceeds the speed of light, a region of space-time from which nothing, no matter, no radiation, no information, can return. It has a name: black hole. The name is wrong. A hole implies an absence, a gap, a nothing. This is not a nothing. This is a maximum, the most of something, the highest possible concentration of mass in the smallest possible volume, the endpoint of compression, the final state of a system that has been adding data to a sector until the sector could no longer hold it. When a star of sufficient mass exhausts its nuclear fuel, the outward pressure that balanced gravity ceases, and gravity, patient, constant, indifferent, completes what it began 4 billion years ago when the star formed: compression. more compression. The core of the star collapses in fractions of a second, past white dwarf, past neutron star, into something for which the mathematics of human physics produces a singularity, a point of infinite density, where the equations divide by zero and stop. The universe has encountered a bad sector, and rather than flag it and route around it, the system has done something else. It has deleted the directory. The event horizon is not a physical boundary. There is no wall, no membrane you can touch, no surface that marks the edge. It is a logical boundary, a line in space-time beyond which causality only runs in one direction, beyond which the future contains only the singularity, beyond which the light cones, the geometric structures that define what can affect what, all tip inward toward the center, uniformly, irrevocably. This is the firewall. Not metaphorically. In the vocabulary of information security, a firewall is a system that controls what data can cross a boundary. It lets some traffic through and blocks other traffic. It enforces a policy. The event horizon enforces a policy. The policy is, data enters, data does not leave. We should be precise about what this means. When a star falls into a black hole, its matter, the specific atomic configuration of that star, the record of its 4 billion-year history encoded in the arrangement of its elements, crosses the horizon and is gone. When a gas cloud falls into the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy, Sagittarius A star, 4 million solar masses, a quiet entity that has been running its deletion protocol for billions of years, that gas cloud, with its specific configuration of hydrogen and helium and trace metals, with its own small record of stellar chemistry, crosses the horizon and is gone. When a planet falls in, it is gone. When a photon falls in, it is gone. When a human being, hypothetically, at some future moment, in some far future scenario, crosses an event horizon, the pattern that constituted that consciousness, that 2.5 petabyte biological drive, is inside a deletion zone. The process has begun. The black hole does not announce itself. It does not send a warning. It does not broadcast an error message. It does not ask for confirmation before deleting. It simply waits. In the center of nearly every large galaxy, there is a supermassive black hole. Ours is relatively quiet. Others are not. Active galactic nuclei, quasars, are black holes accreting at maximum rate, consuming entire stellar systems, converting matter into radiation at efficiencies no human technology has approached. They are the most energetic objects in the observable universe. They are the most efficient deletion protocols in existence. A quasar can consume the equivalent of several hundred solar masses per year. Each solar mass is approximately 2 × 10⁻30 kilograms. Each kilogram contains, at the atomic level, an incomprehensible amount of structured information, the specific arrangement of atoms and molecules that constitutes the history of that matter since the Big Bang. All of it processed, all of it sent across the horizon, all of it gone. The quasar does not pause. The quasar does not store a recovery file. And there is a further consideration. Even the black hole itself is not permanent. In 1974, Stephen Hawking, working from a synthesis of quantum mechanics and general relativity, in a calculation he initially believed must be wrong, determined that black holes are not entirely black. They emit radiation. Not from inside the event horizon, from just outside it. Quantum mechanics demands that empty space is not empty. It is filled with virtual particle pairs, particles and their antiparticles, flickering into existence and annihilating each other in time intervals too small to measure. This is not theoretical, It is measurable. The Casimir effect, real. At the event horizon, sometimes, rarely, but inevitably, one particle of a virtual pair falls in, and the other escapes. The black hole has, in effect, emitted a real particle. It has given up energy. This is Hawking radiation. And because energy and mass are equivalent, E equals mc squared, the most famous equation in physics, the black hole is, very slowly, losing mass. It is evaporating. A stellar mass black hole will take approximately 10 to the power of 67 years to evaporate. The universe is currently approximately 14 billion years old. That is 10 to the power of 10 years. The timescales are incomprehensible, but the direction is clear. The delete key pressed long enough deletes itself. This is the deletion protocol. Not random, not occasional, systematic, embedded in the architecture of the universe at the deepest level. Gravity compresses. Compression forms event horizons. Event horizons trap data. Hawking radiation eventually destroys even the container. The universe has not merely placed a delete key in the system. The universe is the delete key. And there is one more thing. One problem that Hawking himself identified in 1975 that was not resolved for decades, that some physicists argue remains unresolved today. The problem of what Hawking radiation carries with it, or more precisely, what it does not carry. Here is the error report. The laws of quantum mechanics, the foundational rules that govern the behavior of matter and energy at the smallest scales, are unitary. Unitary means information is conserved. A quantum state evolves deterministically and reversibly. If you know the precise quantum state of a system at any moment, you can calculate its state at any other moment, past or future. The information content of the universe does not increase or decrease. It does not corrupt. It is merely rearranged. This is not a philosophical position. It is a mathematical requirement. Unitarity is baked into the Schrödinger equation. It is baked into quantum field theory. Remove unitarity, and the probability amplitudes in quantum mechanics no longer add up to 1. The probabilities stop making sense. Physics stops working. Unitarity is the operating system. And Hawking radiation breaks it. When a black hole forms, it traps information inside the event horizon. This is already a problem for reversibility. Information has been removed from the accessible universe. But so long as the black hole persists, one might argue the information persists with it, merely inaccessible. The crisis comes at the end. When the black hole evaporates over those incomprehensible timescales through Hawking radiation, what is the state of the emitted radiation? Hawking's original calculation showed that the radiation is thermal, random. It has no structure. It carries no information about what fell in. A black hole formed from a collapsing star and a black hole formed from a collapsing library would produce identical Hawking radiation. The radiation is, in the technical sense, mixed state. It cannot be traced back to a specific prior configuration. The information is gone. Not hidden, not encrypted, gone. The specific quantum state of everything that ever fell into that black hole, every particle's spin, position, momentum, has been replaced by featureless thermal noise. This is not rearrangement. This is deletion. Hawking published this result and waited for a rebuttal that would prove him wrong. No satisfactory rebuttal came. What came instead was a decade of increasingly desperate theoretical workarounds, each more elaborate than the last, each carrying its own systemic errors. The information paradox. That is the official name. The paradox is this: quantum mechanics says information cannot be destroyed. General relativity says black holes destroy information. Both frameworks are tested, verified, accurate within their domains of applicability. They cannot both be correct. One of them is lying, and we do not know which one. The most widely discussed attempted resolution involves something called the holographic principle. The idea, developed by Gerard T. Hooft and Leonard Susskind in the 1990s and formalized in a specific physical theory by Juan Maldacena in 1997, is that the information that falls into a black hole is not truly lost. It is encoded on the event horizon itself, on the surface, in a two-dimensional projection. The event horizon as a holographic plate, the three-dimensional infalling data compressed into a two-dimensional boundary, scrambled to the point of unreadability, but not, technically, deleted. This is the holographic principle, and if it is correct, the hard drive metaphor becomes even more literal. The universe does not store its data in three-dimensional space, it stores it on a two-dimensional boundary surface. The three-dimensional interior, the space in which we move, in which we experience ourselves as having depth and volume, is a projection. We are rendered from a surface we cannot see. We are, in the most technical sense, a display output, the image on a screen that the screen does not need in order to function. But the holographic principle does not fully resolve the paradox. It tells us where the information might be stored. It does not describe the mechanism by which information escapes the event horizon, because by definition, information cannot escape the event horizon. The firewall holds. And then there is the firewall paradox. In 2012, a group of physicists, Almaheri, Marolf, Polchinski, and Sully, abbreviated AMPS, published a paper that made things considerably worse. Their argument: if information is preserved in Hawking radiation, if the radiation is not random but carries encoded information about the infalling matter, then the entanglement structure of the Hawking radiation, as the black hole evaporates over time, will eventually conflict with the quantum field theory at the event horizon. The horizon can no longer be smooth and featureless. It must be a wall of high-energy radiation, a firewall. An infalling observer, our hypothetical human, crossing the horizon, would not experience a gentle transition into the interior of the black hole. They would be incinerated, instantly, by a wall of energy at the event horizon. The data structure encounters the delete key and is immediately corrupted. Or the infalling observer experiences nothing unusual, as general relativity predicts, but the information is destroyed. One or the other, both cannot be true. The system has produced an irreconcilable logical error. The user, meaning humanity, meaning the conscious systems attempting to model and navigate the cosmos, is staring at a crashed operating system, the blue screen of the universe. And we are doing what users do. We are reading the error message and trying to understand it. We are searching for the log files. We are reaching for the phone to call technical support. Technical support does not exist. There is something worth noting here in the forensic record. The scale of the effort humans have made to resolve this paradox is extraordinary. The greatest minds in theoretical physics, Hawking, Susskind, Penrose, Maldacena, Hawking again until his death, spent decades on this single question. Not because it has immediate practical consequences, not because it will help feed anyone, or cure anything, or solve any of the visible pressing problems of the volatile sector, but because they cannot accept the answer. The answer that the laws of physics might simply be inconsistent at the boundary conditions, that the universe contains a regime in which both quantum mechanics and general relativity apply, and in that regime, the rules break, that the system has a fatal bug, that the cosmos is, at its deepest level, not a coherent, well-designed operating system, but a set of patches written by different teams at different times, and at the extreme edge cases, the patches conflict. The search for a resolution to the information paradox is the search for evidence that the system is not broken. It is the refusal to accept the log file. We should accept the log file. It says the universe may destroy information. It says the laws of physics may not be self-consistent. It says there is no recovery protocol. The user continues searching for one anyway. This is either the most admirable or the most futile behavior in the known universe. Perhaps those are the same thing. There is a second deletion protocol, less dramatic than the black hole, more pervasive, more patient. It does not require gravity to compress matter past a threshold of no return. It does not require an event horizon. It requires only time and heat. Rudolf Clausius formulated the second law of thermodynamics in 1865. His statement was precise. The entropy of an isolated system never decreases. In any real physical process, entropy either stays the same or increases. This is, in the vocabulary of this report, a formatting process. Entropy is a measure of the number of microstates consistent with a given macrostate. A low entropy state, a crystal, a living organism, a structured hard drive, is one where the components are arranged in a highly specific, improbable configuration. There are few microstates consistent with that level of organization. The structure carries information because the number of possible arrangements is vast, and this one precisely is the one that exists. A high entropy state, a gas expanding freely into a vacuum, a dead organism decomposing, a wiped hard drive, is one where the components are arranged in a way consistent with many possible microstates. Any arrangement will do. The structure carries less information because the current arrangement is one of trillions of equally probable configurations. As entropy increases, information decreases. Not because bits are being deleted one by one, but because the signal is being drowned in noise. Consider a biological system. A human body at the moment of peak metabolic function is a highly organized, low-entropy structure. The arrangement of its trillions of cells, the precise folding of its proteins, the specific patterns of its neural connections, this is improbable. This is structured. This is information-dense. This requires energy to maintain. Energy, specifically the free energy gradient between the sunlight that originally drove the photosynthesis that produced the food that metabolized into ATP that drives the cell's machinery, is the only thing standing between the body and its high entropy final state. The moment that energy input stops, entropy begins its work. Enzymatic processes that were carefully regulated become unregulated. Cell membranes that were actively maintained begin to fail. Proteins begin to denature. The chemical gradients that maintained electrical potential across neural membranes dissipate. The signal, the organized information-dense state of the living system, becomes noise. This process takes days to weeks, depending on environmental conditions. The body returns to disorder. The information structure it represented is redistributed into the environment. Heat, gases, simpler molecules, in forms that, while technically still encoding information in the physical arrangement of atoms, encoded in a form as close to illegible as the universe can currently produce. The read operation fails. The data is not deleted, it is scrambled. The scrambled data is, for practical purposes, equivalent to deletion. Now extend this to the universe. The cosmos began, or very nearly began, in an extraordinarily low entropy state. The Big Bang produced a configuration of energy and matter of remarkable order, hot, dense, nearly uniform, smooth. The early universe was a clean sector. From that initial low entropy state, all structure has emerged. Gravity, the only force that creates order spontaneously by pulling matter together at the cost of increasing entropy elsewhere, formed galaxies, stars, planets. Stars generated the free energy gradients that drove chemistry. Chemistry generated biology. Biology generated consciousness. All of this, every galaxy, every star, every living thing, every thought, is a local, temporary decrease in entropy, paid for by a global, permanent increase in entropy. Every candle that burns adds disorder to the universe to produce its small light. Every brain that thinks adds heat to the cosmos to produce its small thought. Every civilization that builds adds entropy to the system to produce its temporary structures. The universe is, in the aggregate, always increasing in entropy, always becoming more disordered, always becoming less readable. The signal-to-noise ratio of the cosmos is in permanent, irreversible decline. There is a specific timescale for this. In approximately 10 to the power of 14 years, star formation will cease. The universe will have run out of hydrogen to form new stars. The existing stars will continue to burn, but no new ones will ignite. In approximately 10 to the power of 40 years, all baryonic matter, all protons and neutrons will have decayed, if proton decay occurs at the rate predicted by some grand unified theories. All the atoms that make up every planet, every moon, every rock, every body will have dissolved into lighter particles and radiation. The planets will evaporate, not explosively, not dramatically, proton by proton, over timescales so vast that the current age of the universe is, by comparison, a single clock cycle in a process running for billions of years. In approximately 10 to the power of 67 years, stellar mass black holes will have evaporated through Hawking radiation. In approximately 10 to the power of 100 years, even the most massive black holes, the supermassive engines in the centers of galaxies, will have evaporated. After that, nothing. Photons, leptons, extremely low-energy particles, drifting in an empty void. No structure, no gradients, no free energy, only noise. This is what entropy does to the drive. It does not delete files one by one. It does not target specific data structures. It fills the available space with noise until the signal is irreadable. It performs a low-level format, not the quick format, the one that merely removes the file allocation table, leaving the data intact in the sectors until overwritten. The full format, sector by sector, every bit set to 0 or to random noise, uniformly, until the drive contains no recoverable data. The thermal death of the universe is the completion of a full format. And it is not a malfunction. It is the system operating exactly as designed. There is a philosophical tradition, a long one, that attempts to find comfort in the vastness of time. The argument that because the heat death is so far in the future, it is irrelevant, that because the universe has in front of it epochs of astronomical duration before entropy wins, the eventual outcome does not negate the present. This is a coping mechanism. It is not a rebuttal. The second law of thermodynamics does not care about psychological distance. The format is running. It has always been running. It was running before the first cell divided on the surface of the early Earth. It will be running long after the last photon from the last evaporating black hole has been red-shifted into imperceptibility. The thermal noise is the constant background against which all signal exists, and the signal is losing.
This is the forensic question. If the data of your life, the complete record of your existence, every sensory input you processed, every thought you generated, every decision you made, every connection you formed, is erased from the cosmic hard drive, did you ever exist? Not does it feel like you existed, not will others remember you, not does your existence have meaning in a human sense? The forensic question, the technical question, the question the autopsy report must address. Let us be precise about what is being erased. There are several layers of record. The first layer, biological memory, the specific electrochemical patterns in your brain that encode your experiences. These are already degrading in real time. Human memory is not a recording, it is a reconstruction, lossy, subject to revision and confabulation with every retrieval. They will cease entirely at the death of the biological hardware. The second layer, physical record. Every place you have stood, your body displaced air molecules, transferred heat to surfaces, shed skin cells, left biochemical traces. These records, encoded in the physical state of the environment, are dissipating continuously. The heat signature of a human body in a room disappears within minutes. The molecular traces extend somewhat longer, but they too are subject to entropy. The third layer, information in the memories of others, the representation of you in the brains of people who knew you. This layer persists somewhat longer, potentially decades, but is subject to the same hardware failures as your own memory and will not outlast the people who hold it. The fourth layer, documentary record, text, images, data, whatever representations of your existence have been encoded in external media, subject to the substrate decay discussed in Act 2, potentially persistent for centuries, millennia, geological timescales under ideal conditions. This is the layer that unitarity protects. This is the layer that the information paradox threatens. Consider what it would mean for unitarity to hold. Your physical imprint, the minute perturbations your body introduced into the quantum state of the universe, is preserved. It exists, encoded somewhere in the physical configuration of the cosmos, scrambled far beyond any practical possibility of recovery, but technically intact. This is not meaningfully different from deletion. A record that cannot be read is, for all functional purposes, a deleted record. The distinction between scrambled beyond recovery and deleted is a mathematical abstraction that has no operational consequence. The information of your existence persists, and it is completely inaccessible, and it will remain completely inaccessible for the remainder of the universe's operational lifespan, until heat death converts even the scrambled record into undifferentiated thermal noise. This is the best-case scenario. Now consider the alternative. If the information paradox is resolved in Hawking's original direction, if black holes genuinely destroy information, then the physical imprint is not merely scrambled, it is gone. The quantum state that encoded your physical perturbation on the universe is irretrievably altered. The record is not preserved in any form. You were here, now you are not. The universe does not remember. There is a term in philosophy, solipsism, the position that the only thing one can be certain exists is one's own mind, that the external world, other minds, the past, all of these might be illusions. Digital solipsism is the inverse. The position is not that only your mind exists. The position is that, from the perspective of the universe, from the perspective of the physical record, your mind never did. Consciousness is a local phenomenon, a temporary pattern in a biological system. It has no representation in the laws of physics beyond its physical substrate. When the substrate is gone, the pattern is gone. The experience of being you, the felt sense of continuity, the narrative of a self persisting through time, is a story the pattern told about itself while it was running. When the program ends, the story ends. There is no reader. There is no archive. We should address the objection. The objection is, but I exist now. This moment is real.
The fact that it will not persist does not negate its current reality. The autopsy report notes this objection and does not dispute it. The current state is real. The current read operation is functioning. The data is currently accessible. But the autopsy is not a report on the current state. The autopsy is a report on what the data analysis shows when the full record is examined. And the full record shows temporary, unbacked, no redundancy, no recovery path, subject to hardware failure, subject to substrate decay, subject to entropy, potentially subject to information loss at the level of fundamental physics. The file is currently open. The file has never been saved. Every culture that has grappled with this question, the question of what persists, what remains, what is real after the body is gone, has produced a version of the same answer. Something persists. The soul, the spirit, the energy, the memory in the minds of loved ones, the work left behind, the children, the legacy, the ripples in the pond. These are not answers. These are coping mechanisms. The soul, no physical evidence, not a quantity that appears in any equation of physics. The energy is conserved, yes, but it is redistributed as heat. The organized pattern is not conserved. The memory in others, see Layer 3, subject to hardware failure. The legacy, see Act 2, volatile sector. The ripples in the pond, scrambled past readability, see above. This is not cruelty. This is precision. The autopsy cannot spare the family's feelings. The autopsy reports what it finds. There is one more thing to note. The fact that you will not persist does not mean you currently function. The temporary file is running. It is executing its processes. It is generating outputs. It is interacting with other temporary files. It is, within the operational parameters of its hardware and its context, doing what it does. This is not nothing. This is also not the permanent, meaningful, cosmically significant existence that consciousness has traditionally claimed for itself. It is what it is, a process running. For now. This is the end of the record. Not the end of the universe. The universe will continue in various states of degradation for timescales that make the current age of the cosmos appear as a rounding error. But the record ends here because beyond a certain point, there is nothing to record. The heat death. The term was coined by Lord Kelvin in 1852. He did not intend it dramatically. It was a technical observation. If the second law of thermodynamics holds, there is a final state the universe is moving toward, a state of maximum entropy, a state of thermal equilibrium, a state in which no further work can be done, no gradients, no free energy, no processes. Not cold, not dark in the conventional sense, just uniform, diffuse, still. A completed format. Imagine the drive. Not at this moment, full of data, full of structure, full of the accumulated record of 13.8 billion years of physical processes, stars burning, galaxies rotating, life generating complexity, consciousness generating questions. Imagine the drive at the end, every sector written to uniformly, every bit set to a state indistinguishable from any other bit. No file structure, no allocation table, no data that can be distinguished from the surrounding data. No signal, perfect noise, maximum entropy. The drive is full and completely empty, full of undifferentiated thermal radiation, empty of information. This is not a malfunction. There is no blue screen. There is no error message. There is no crash. There is just completion. The format has run its full cycle. The system has reached its minimum energy, maximum entropy final state. The job is done. There will be no stars. The last red dwarf, the smallest, most fuel-efficient stellar engines, will exhaust their hydrogen in approximately 10 to the power of 14 years. They will dim, they will cool, they will become cold, dark spheres of degenerate matter, drifting in an expanding void. There will be no light sources. There will be no planets. After sufficient time, even the planets orbiting the dead stars will decay out of their orbits through gravitational radiation, through quantum tunneling events, and spiral inward or drift away into the void. There will be no protons, no atoms, no structures. The black holes will persist far longer than anything else. Patient, massive, dark. They will be the last objects in the universe with any structure worth noting, slowly evaporating, slowly converting their mass into Hawking radiation. That radiation spreading outward, redshifting, cooling, diffusing into the background of an ever-expanding universe. Until the last black hole has evaporated, and the radiation from it has spread too thin to detect, and there is nothing left but a very low-density gas of leptons and photons, distributed as uniformly as the expansion of space allows. No structure, no difference, no signal. This is the final format, not as metaphor, as physical prediction. The universe began as a low-entropy, highly structured, information-dense system. It is, through the operation of the second law of thermodynamics, through entropy, through stellar evolution, through the cooling of the cosmic background radiation, through the evaporation of black holes, systematically converting that structure into noise. It began with a write operation. It will end with a wipe. There is a question the autopsy must acknowledge before it closes the file. The question, does this matter? Not in the cosmic sense. We have established that mattering requires an audience, and the final format eliminates all possible audiences. But in the immediate sense, in the sense of what this information does to the temporary file currently reading it. The autopsy does not prescribe behavior. It does not tell the file how to run while it is running. It notes, the data shows no evidence that the deletion changes the operational parameters of the current process. The impermanence of the file does not alter the file's current execution. The approaching format does not format the present. This may be the only conclusion that offers anything other than pure audit. The current process is real. The current state is real. The current read operation is functioning. Everything else is thermodynamics.